Toronto Talk Sports and more. It's your guy Hez. We're back with some sports talk, NBA Roundtable, discussing the recent NBA Finals between the Miami Heat and my Los Angeles Lakers. Joining me here, I got my main man, Justen Williams. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's going on, TTS crew and TTS viewers? What's up?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm my main man, our sound engineer, A to the K, Adrian Kwan. What's going on, brother?
Not much, Zion. How you doing?
Hey, we living, man. You know exactly how I'm doing. You know exactly how I'm doing. So, listen, guys, let's get right to it. The Los Angeles Lakers won their 17th championship in NBA history and franchise history, defeating the Miami Heat in 6 games. It was an interesting series. Beginning with Game 1, you had the blowout. I think they beat Miami by whatever it was, 30 points or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And obviously Miami sustained some pretty significant injuries. Guys came back. There were a couple of games that were close, just a bit of everything. It was a very interesting series. Before we actually talk about what happened in the series and kind of break it down, just for a little bit of a recap for our sake and, of course, our audience, I'll throw it to you first, Justin. What were your thoughts heading into the series in terms of your prediction, your expectations? What was your mindset going into the NBA Finals?
So my mindset going in was I figured LA was going to come out on top, but I knew they weren't going to sweep. I didn't think they had it in them to sweep, especially when Jimmy Buckets gets hot and he's just on a roll and Drug and everything, just the support system he had around him. So I actually picked Lakers in 6, and that won me some good dollars. By that
my man.
Yeah. You know me, I only bet by dollar amounts anyway, single dollar, so I won $5.50 off that pick.
Very conservative. All right. Enough to buy you maybe a sandwich at BK. Who knows?
Exactly.
Shout out to BK, I guess. Woohoo! AK, what about you, man? What were your thoughts, going into the series? What were you expecting heading into the NBA Finals?
Well, my heart wanted Miami to win in 7, but, my mind knew that the Lakers had the advantage.
Right.
So I knew it wasn't going to be a sweep. I knew Miami was going to come out strong. Jimmy Buckets, Spoelstra. Miami plays with a lot of pride. So I think 6 games.
It's more than enough.
Yeah. But, again, Miami had a lot of injuries. Maybe the series could have been different if they were healthy. Who knows?
Oh, you mean in terms of the outcome or just the competitive nature?
Maybe it could have went 7. Listen, if the series had gone 7, it's a different beast, right?
Sure.
One game take all, the pressure goes back on the Lakers. But now the Lakers played well. Vogel made all the right adjustments. Defensively, I thought the Lakers, especially coming out of timeouts, they made sure they got the stop, and that's huge, right? Because obviously Miami's calling a timeout to try to change momentum. So being able to come out with defensive stops out of timeouts was huge for the Lakers.
To touch on that too, for Game 6 when they started Caruso, I was like, "Oh, where's Dwight?" But then it was weird because Dwight Howard didn't play very well in Game 5, so I was like, "Is that why they're not having him on?" And sure as poop, it was the right reason to put him on. So good job, Caruso.
Yeah, he balled out, man. For me, guys, going into the series, I'm kind of with you, Justin, as far as picking the Lakers in 6. I was expecting a competitive series, which it was during the middle of the series. We did get some competitive games. It was great to see Jimmy ball out when he had that 40-point triple-double. His value went, just skyrocketed, this series. But nothing really surprised me. It was the Lakers, they were favored to win by a mile, perhaps, looking at the odds makers and things of that nature. More so based on, their experience, their size, obviously the LeBron factor and this and that. A lot of young guys in that Miami team, and not just a lot of young guys, but a lot of young guys that play key roles that they depend on to, do big things. And they played well for the most part. Guys like Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson and whatnot. But it's a lot to ask for, rookies to, really elevate their team and, their games even individually to help their team win a championship their very first time around. But props to Miami. They fought hard. And they had to overcome, as you said there, AK, some very, serious injuries there. It would have been interesting if Dragic was actually healthy for the entire series. he was their leading scorer, of course, heading into the NBA Finals. So yeah, well, it was, nothing surprised me. It was pretty much, what I expected. I predicted them in 6, and they won in 6. And I was a happy camper.
We know.
What was one part of the series, perhaps, guys, that really, stood out for you, whether it was a defining moment or just something that just really, surprised you, as the series got underway? AK, let's start with you, man.
I don't think it was anything that surprised me, but I honestly believe it was the play of Rondo, right? Rondo gave the Lakers that boost. You know what I mean? Like, LeBron, like, he actually deferred to him in terms of playmaking. Like, there were times where, he just gave Rondo the ball and just catching it off the first pass before he made his plays. And that's something that I've been critical about LeBron for a long time. Like, he just always wants to be ball dominant. But when you have a floor general and a playmaker like Rondo out there with the championship experience that he has, you definitely want to utilize that. And, I mean, just look at Game 6. Like, he was scorching Jimmy Butler. I mean, Jimmy was definitely tired. You could tell he was fatigued. He gave everything he had in
Yeah, Jimmy was averaging, like, about 45 minutes a game. Like,
yeah. But I definitely think Rondo was a very key piece for the Lakers, not only in the finals, but during this whole entire playoff run.
Right. What about you, Jay?
I was going to say the defining moment which really stuck out to me was obviously Jimmy's 40-point night where he just went off. But it was actually more or less Game 6, specifically in the second quarter when, to me, it personally felt like Miami's defense just kind of went away. And there's one play in particular that brings to my mind, and that's when I believe it was Anthony Davis had the ball in their end, not like in Lakers' end, but over in Miami's side, and 2 Miami defenders just walked away from him, and he just had a clear shot to the basket. He just went up and did a layup. It could have been him or Rondo, one of the two. I think it might have been AD. And like right then and there, I knew Miami was done. I was like, there's no way. You're not going to give AD the ball, guard him, and then walk away and let him have the net to himself. Obviously, he's going to score. So that was kind of my biggest takeaway from Game 6 itself. But again, obviously, Jimmy Buckets going off for 40 was huge.
Right. So for me, there was no real defining moment. Nothing surprised me, but I kind of briefly touched on it earlier. After Game 1, when it was a blowout, and obviously Miami was getting ridiculed, social media, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be a sweep, and this is a, unfair matchup, and blah, blah, blah. People saying, oh, LeBron has an easy ride to a title, and all these different kind of things. So I was pleased to see that Miami still had some fight in them, and they were able to win a couple of games. After Game 1, I'll admit, Justin, I did actually alter my prediction and say, you know what, perhaps the Lakers could take this in 5, just like they did their previous 3 series. But to see Miami fight on their will and to, bring it to a Game 6, obviously they tried hard to, fight for a Game 7. That wasn't happening. The Lakers came out in Game 6 just, guns blazing. They said, we got to finish them off. Didn't want to chance it in the 7th game. But for me, more than anything, just giving this very young Miami team props for, just how hard they fought, being undersized, the mismatch. And Jimmy Butler, I mean, as I said, like his stock just really grew. We knew what Jimmy Butler was all about, those of us who watch basketball and have followed him throughout his career. But sometimes, and I know, AK, this, we've probably talked about this as well, he gets a bad rep for, certain things that happen maybe in Minnesota, Chicago, here and there, perhaps rubbing certain teammates the wrong way, because he's just one of those guys. He has that dog in him, and he's about winning, and he's about, not messing around or fooling around. And, there are certain softies, let's just say, not mentioning any names, Karl Anthony Towns and others, who perhaps just couldn't handle that kind of leadership style or whatever. But for me, just as a basketball observer, it looks like Jimmy has really found a home in Miami under the leadership there of, Eric Spoelstra, obviously Pat Riley at the helm. And I think, their future is bright.
Well, the thing with Jimmy, I think he rubs players the wrong way. But I think coaches, if you're a coach, you have to love him.
Oh, absolutely.
Just think about, like, he thrived under Thibodeau, who's a disciplinarian, right? He's thriving under Spoelstra, same way. He would thrive under Pop. And if if you think about these coaches, these are all championship coaches. These are coaches that hold players accountable. And that's my biggest issue with a lot of the players and superstars in today's NBA is that they don't want to be held accountable. Like, as a coach, you can't tell them anything. So now you have an old school guy like Jimmy Butler come in, and he's an extension of the coach, and he's getting on guys for not working hard, for not wanting to win. Just think about Jimmy Butler everywhere he's gone. The team is way better. Like, what's Minnesota done since Jimmy left? Look at the Sixers this year.
Yeah, I was going to look at Philadelphia. Where were they?
You know, look at what he's done in Miami with a young group of guys, right? So Jimmy Butler, I mean, the bad rap he's gotten is just because of the entitlement of today's players and even fans, right? So I love Jimmy Buckets. He could play for me any day.
Buckets for the win. So guys, as we wind down here, I'd be remiss if we did not discuss the NBA Finals MVP, Mr. LeBron James, obviously in his 17th year. So just for a little bit of backstory, obviously heading into this season, LeBron was coming off of an injury, once again going into his 17th year, not knowing what to expect, so many roster moves with the Lakers. Obviously adding AD was a huge thing with AD's size, and obviously he's an amazing talent in the way that he defends. But, let's talk about LeBron's performance, throughout the playoffs and how he was able to, dominate in the finals. Justen, what did you see from Mr. LeBron? I know you are a LeBron fan.
I am. I do enjoy watching LeBron work his magic, which, like I said, every game I got to see. Some games I didn't get to watch in its entirety. I got to watch the highlights after, but it's just magic. It's like he has a third eye. He knows where to go, how to take it, how to draw away the defense. He knows his boy AD or Dwight Howard, Caruso in this case, is open and able to make a play. He has that sixth sense, that basketball sense that I don't want to say you can't teach, but if you inherently have it, it's a lot easier to work with. And just like Jimmy Buckets, and I'd even argue Kawhi Leonard to a degree, they know that their presence, they're general, as AK said. They command the ball, but they also command not only respect, but they command the defense to notice them. So when LeBron is on the court, I enjoyed watching everything he did, from shooting a three to faking something to guarding the defense to just even his defensive structure was crisp. So
I love LeBron's bully ball. I mean, at the end of the day, who can really guard or stop LeBron in the paint? I feel that a lot of times he settles for, perimeter shots. I mean, look at the size of him, and he has quickness even in his 17th year. So when LeBron actually makes up his mind and he says, I'm attacking the basket, I mean, who's going to stop him? I think one of the things that perhaps affects him maybe mentally, especially perhaps late in games, is his, lack of effective, free throw shooting. So maybe afraid of going to the line in the last couple of minutes of the game. But this series, I thought he played well. He did attack the basket. He got to the rim. He realized that nobody could stop him. And I don't have the numbers in front of me right now, but from what I observed, he did shoot his free throws and make them in the fourth, when it counted throughout the series. So props to him. What do you say there, AK? As opposed to Justen, we know you're not the biggest LeBron James fan, to put it lightly, but I know you do respect what he's done. But specifically this year, and once again, going back to, what the expectations were for LeBron heading into this year, even just coming to LA in general, where a lot of people were just like, LeBron doesn't care about winning. He's all about Hollywood and making movies, and, basketball is secondary. But we've heard, from LeBron the last couple of days after winning the championship and, talking about almost this whole revenge tour, revenge season and this and that. And he's had some pretty interesting things to say. But what were your thoughts just observing LeBron, AK, throughout the NBA Finals, man?
Well, yeah, for sure. Anyone that's listened to me on this podcast knows that I'm not a huge LeBron fan. But I do respect the hell out of him. He is on my top 10 greatest of all time NBA players. In terms, I'll touch on this season, this playoff, this bubble playoff. This is how LeBron James should have been playing. Like, one of my, and you touched on the fact that his bully ball, right? And again, even his willingness to give up the ball to Rondo, let Rondo make some plays. Just his demeanor on the court, he seemed more focused, more determined. And I mean, if he had this type of mentality when he was in his prime, a little younger, he would have won more chips. And that's just my opinion. I believe that. But I thought he played well. He led the Lakers. I follow much of the post-finals talks, and
Okay.
I'm not a Lakers fan, and I'm not a LeBron fan. I don't hate the Lakers, though. But to touch on the point when you're talking about how he's talking about this is a revenge tour, and he doesn't care about winning.
He's coming at the haters strong, man.
But
He's
here's the
coming
thing.
at the haters strong.
Here's the thing, though. We have very short-term memory, because it wasn't that long ago when he's throwing inbound passes off the backboard, or he's just a pylon out there on defense. And here's my thing. Yeah, I think the Lakers were in fourth before he got hurt last season, and then he came back, and it would have been a struggle to make the playoffs or whatnot. But what kind of champion are you when you're not the front runner and you're not playing hard and you're just out there going through the motions, and now you want to address the haters because you got AD on your squad and you go win a ring? Like, these are the things that I have an issue with. Congratulations to them. I'm not being a hater. I don't want to throw shade on the championship. But if you want to bring the talks about this is a revenge tour and this you care about winning and all this, well, last year you had a chance to still play hard, play defense, try to win as many games as you can, your first season in the West, and he didn't. He didn't give max effort. So to me, the consistency matters. But like this year in the bubble, he played like a champion. He led like a champion. So much props to him.
And I think the main thing between this year and last year, obviously, and you touched on it, AK, AD, they had Anthony Davis, Rondo, and a bunch of others. But the Lakers were just super focused this year. They saw what the Clippers were doing. I'm not talking about in the playoffs. The Clippers didn't play very well in the playoffs, but I'm talking more, before, the playoffs, before, COVID and the bubble and this and that. And they knew that they had stiff competition in the West. I mean, the Clippers pretty much smacked them on opening night and then beat them again. What was it, Christmas Day, I believe. And, the Lakers were just focused. They knew that in order to, get to that ultimate goal, they had to be laser focused. And with all of the distractions and COVID and, the bubble and this and that, I believe that one of the reasons why the Lakers did come out on top was that mental toughness and that ability to stay, laser focused. As opposed to, let's say, a team like the Clippers that perhaps you had a number of guys that didn't even want to be there. Their mind was elsewhere, whether it's Magic City or whatnot. We won't go there. But, props to the Lakers. They definitely did their thing. And, LeBron playing at the level that he played at, in his 17th year in the league, the amount of minutes that he's played, the amount of games that he's played, you just have to respect that. Love or hate the guy. I know we all definitely respect what he brings to the game of basketball, specifically what he did, this season and in the finals. Guys, we'll leave it there for now. I just want to say this as we close off. Everyone knows I speak about it all the time. The hat's right here. I'm a diehard Laker fan, and I've been probably since the age of 6. I absolutely love the Lakers. So for me, it was really special witnessing my team, my Lakers, win a championship for the first time in 10 years. And what was extra special was sharing that moment with my family, my wife and specifically my kids. When the Lakers won back in 2010, I had 2 kids at that time, and they were both babies. So fast forward 10 years later, 4 kids, and the youngest is 6, the oldest is 12. So just to share that special moment with my entire family and the kids, we did our thing, and, our celebration and whatever. That's just something I'll truly cherish. It was a very, very special moment. So props to the Lakers. Personal shout out to personal friend, my man Phil Handy, assistant coach of the Los Angeles Lakers. Way to go. Back-to-back chips for Phil Handy and Mr. Danny Green, obviously former Toronto Raptor. So good on the Lakers. And guys, we'll see what next year brings. I mean, nobody knows. I mean, right now, I don't even think it's confirmed yet when the next season is actually going to start. They'll probably announce that soon. We don't know what the conditions are going to be like, if there'll be fans around. I know they're trying to, the goal is to get out of a bubble environment and get into stadiums and this and that. I guess it'll all depend on, what's happening at that time, with the virus and whatnot. So let's cross our fingers, hope things get back to some kind of, normal situation, not just in NBA-wise, but in the world. But it's another successful NBA season. I'll say props to Adam Silver and the rest of the staff in the NBA for what they did. Bringing basketball back in the bubble environment. 0 positive cases. They did a really, really good job, and we were blessed as fans to watch some really competitive games throughout the entire bubble experience. So we'll leave it there. Justen and AK, if you want to remind our audience where they could possibly connect with you on the socials.
AK, you first.
I'm just on IG, DJ_ICAMPro.
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at the same handle, which is JUS10Williams.
And Justen, anything new with you in terms of your shows?
Yeah, I have a show in Oshawa Friday night, actually.
That's my city, all right.
That's your city. I was going to tell you after this, but yeah.
All right, my man.
And a movie I'm in just got released on Amazon Prime, so go check that out. This Was America.
This Was America, featuring our very own Justen Williams. Guys, thanks so much. I'm Zion Hezekiah at Zalom. You can check me out. Thanks for tuning in. Toronto Talk Sports and more.
Thank you for watching. Please click the like button and leave us a comment with your feedback. And don't forget to subscribe with notifications to see more engaging and interactive content. Toronto Talk Sports and more. For the love of the six, let's connect.